Okay. Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. So today's first session will start soon, but how many presenters are we? I don't know. I can see here Zamira is here and the other two presenters.
Only you and Zamira is.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's start. Zamira, with you.
Sorry, Professor Mehmet. Other participant is here.
Okay. Who is Laniana Popescu or the other?
Other one.
Okay, other one. The
Yes.
second paper. Okay. So if they are here, then we can start with Abdul Wali Khan University. I mean, their name is Mayan Nesir Udan, Muhammad Tariq, Muhammad Azam Khan. Is there anybody from this paper here? Okay, let's start with you, Zamira. Professor Zamira, we can start with your presentation. Then if they join, that we can include them.
Thank you very much.
Is it okay? All right. Okay. So today is first session is interesting session that we have also practical and applied papers here. So I hope you will enjoy this session. So we are starting with Zamira Askonabeva. Her paper is about okay, I think she okay. Trade openness and carbon dioxide emission in emerging economy.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Welcome to International Symposium on Economic Thought. I'm glad to be here with you today. First, I would like to thank the organizing committee for giving us the opportunity to attend this important event. I congratulate you on organizing such a successful symposium. So the title of our study, Does Trade Openness Asymmetrically Affect Carbon Emissions in Emerging Economies? I am Zamira Askonabeva from Kyrgyz Turkish Manas University, Kyrgyzstan, and my co-author is my dear teacher, Professor Dr. Ebru Çağlayan. She is from Marmara University, Turkey. I would like to give a very special thanks to my dear teacher. I'm so grateful for your help and support. Thanks a lot. So, the outline of our research will constitute 6 main sections. We would like to start with the environmental impact of trade openness. The motivation and the purpose of the study are given in the next section. The review of extant literature are presented in the third part. Variables utilized in the empirical analysis are given in the next section. And methodology applied and obtained findings are presented in the fifth part. And our study will end with conclusion part. Nowadays, environmental issues have attracted a great deal of attention from environmental policymakers and researchers. Carbon emissions are found to be leading contribution to the global warming problem. Trade-environment relationship has also been of increased in research interest in the modeling of carbon emissions. Global carbon emissions have increased dramatically by approximately half from million tons in 1919 to million tons in 2015, with an annual average rate of 2.1%. The share of emerging economies in world trade is growing. Also, emerging economies are among main pollutants in the world. In the literature, there are 3 main channels through which environmental impact of trade can be observed, as they are scale effect, composition effect, and technique effect. The scale effect arises from the simple fact that economies with higher per capita incomes both produce and consume more goods and services. An increase in scale necessarily brings about a proportionate increase in pollution. The technical effect captures the effect of employing more stringent environmental standards, leading to environmentally friendly production approach. As extra income increases people's willingness for a less carbon-intensive environment. The composition effect, on the other hand, captures the effect on emissions resulting from the country structure of the industry. Put differently, the composition effect is the effect on emissions brought about by a country's composition of output influenced by its comparative advantage. So the motivation of the study: trade openness plays an important role in determining carbon emissions, and extensive research has been carried out on this topic. However, research on the nexus between trade openness and environment still has not yet reached a consensus. In other words, studies provide mixed results regarding the linkage between trade and environmental quality. While the findings of one study indicate that trade openness helps to reduce carbon emissions, other authors assert that trade openness impedes environmental quality. Given the growing share of emerging economies in world trade, this paper will focus on the environmental effect of trade. So the main purpose of this study is to investigate the asymmetric impact of trade openness on environment quality. Annual data of 7 emerging economies for the period from 1990 to 2014 are used. A nonlinear panel autoregressive distributed lag technique proposed by Shin et al. Is employed in determining asymmetric impact of trade openness on carbon emissions. In this table are given the review of extant literature. As can be observed from table, the results are mixed. The results of one study indicate that trade openness may lead to environmental degradation, while the findings of other studies show that trade openness is not harmful to the environment. So the contribution of this study to the literature is twofold. First, nonlinear impact of trade openness on pollution has been largely overlooked in the literature. Unlike previous literature on the topic, this study examines asymmetric impact of trade openness on environment in the empirical analysis. Second, the novel procedure, a nonlinear panel autoregressive distributed lag technique proposed by Shin et al. Is employed in the empirical analysis. In this table are described variables utilized in the empirical analysis. Carbon emission is our dependent variable. Our explanatory variables are trade openness, economic growth, urbanization, financial development, and renewable energy consumption. All the data were collected from World Bank databases and were included into the model with their logarithmic form. In the empirical analysis, a nonlinear panel ARDL model was employed. The main advantage of this procedure is it can be employed with variables with different orders of integration. And second, this procedure can give reliable outcomes in case of small sample sizes. So it is one of the widely used procedure in determining long-run relationship between variables. The model can be expressed as follows, where INT denote time and country and time respectively. LCO2 is our dependent variable. L-trade plus and L-trade minus denote positive and negative changes in trade openness. X represents a set of other control variables. Notations lambda 1, 2, 3, and 4 are short-run coefficients of the lagged dependent variable, trade openness, and other control variables. Theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 are long-run coefficients of trade openness and other control variables. And lastly, phi represents error correction term. It shows a long-run equilibrium speed of adjustment after a shock in the short run. So positive and negative components can be computed as positive and negative partial sum decompositions of trade openness change, and can be expressed as below, where min and max denote positive and negative shocks in trade openness. Our findings. First, cross-section dependence test results are described, then panel uniroot analysis are presented, and the estimation results of nonlinear panel ARDL model are summarized. Cross-section dependence test proposed by Pesaran 2004 can be computed as follows, where rho is a simple average of all pairwise correlation coefficients of the ordinary least squares residuals. The null hypothesis implies that there doesn't exist cross-sectional dependence. The results are given in this table. As can be observed from the table, there exists cross-sectional dependence among all series. And so in the next step of our empirical analysis is implement a second generation panel uniroot proposed by Pesaran 2007 CADF test, cross-sectionally augmented Dickey-Fuller test. The results are given in this table. As can be observed from the table, the variables are a mixture of I0 and I1 series. In other words, the integration order of the series are mixed. So it implies that a nonlinear panel ARDL model can be employed in our empirical analysis. In order to estimate nonlinear panel ARDL model, we apply both pooled mean group PMG and mean group MG estimators. In order to select between two estimators, we perform a Hausmann test. Based on Hausmann test results, it can be concluded that PMG estimator is efficient under the null hypothesis and preferable to MG estimators. So PMG estimation results are given in this table. Findings illustrate that all estimated coefficients are statistically significant. The estimates are negative for trait increases and positive for trait decreases. In other words, positive shocks occurring trait adversely affects the environment. A 1% increase in trait is expected to decrease carbon emissions by 0.12%. And negative shocks occurring trait, on the contrary, escalate carbon emissions. A 1% decrease in trait is expected to increase carbon emissions by 0.27%. As can be observed from the table, the declining trait openness has a greater negative influence on environment, thus implying that a long-run asymmetric co-integration exists between the variables. Moreover, Wald test results indicate that the null hypothesis of symmetry is rejected at 1% level of significance in the long run and at 10% level of significance in the short run. Thus, these results suggest that not taking into account the nonlinearity and asymmetry in modeling the nexus between trait pollution may lead to misleading conclusions. The coefficient of economic growth is found to be positive. It implies that economic growth is a major contributor to carbon emissions. The coefficient of urbanization is found to be positive, while the coefficient of urbanization square is found to be negative. These outcomes indicate a presence of an inverted U-shaped relationship between environment and the urbanization. The coefficient of financial development is found to be negative, and the coefficient of renewable energy consumption also is found to be negative. It implies that financial development increases environmental quality. And a 1% increase in renewable energy consumption is expected to decrease carbon emissions by 1.08%. And the error correction term is found to be negative and statistically significant. It shows how speedily variables converge to equilibrium. And overall, the results indicate that a long-run asymmetric relationship exists between trait openness and environment. In this study, we examined asymmetric impact of trait openness on carbon emissions. For this purpose, we employed the annual data of 7 emerging economies. And in the empirical analysis, we applied nonlinear panel ARDL specification advanced by Shenel. The results illustrate that there exists the long-run equilibrium relationship among the variables of trade openness, economic growth, urbanization, financial development, renewable energy consumption, and carbon emissions. Also, results suggest that in the long run, the increase in trade openness reduces carbon emissions, while the decrease in trade openness intensifies carbon emissions in emerging economies under the consideration. The key contributing factors of carbon emissions in emerging economies were found to be economic growth and urbanization. Based on the findings of this study, we suggest the following policy implications. Since trade openness, financial development, and renewable energy consumption are good for environmental quality in emerging economies, a particular attention should be given to these macroeconomic indicators. Since renewable energy mitigates the pollution, The government should stimulate the expansion of the share of renewable energy in the total energy mix. International trade is not harmful to the environment, and more emphasis should be put on the trade liberalization. Development of the financial system can be effective in reducing environmental degradation. Thus, policies designed to develop financial markets can be adopted to combat climate change. So the policymakers in these countries should pursue policies to control carbon emissions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor, for your presentation.
I'm not
So you stop sharing? All right. Okay. So is there any question for this paper and for the presenter? Also, you can ask, as I wrote before, you can use the chat box to ask something, or you can email the presenter, right? Because I know YouTube channels, there are many people watching you, and they can ask maybe through your email, right? Okay. I want to let them know.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Professor. Just I can say something about your paper, if you don't mind. Yeah, the ARDL model is actually based on the longer time period, but you use 25 years, right?
Yes.
Maybe you can just adjust or try to make a longer time series, maybe if it's possible.
Yes, it is possible.
Okay. So. Okay, let's keep going with the other presenter, Mian Masir Odin, right?
Hello.
Hello.
Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but not clear.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, this is better.
Is that fine?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is, should I start?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. My name is
Nasir. Your presentation first, and you can talk your paper.
Okay. Is that fine?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Nasir. I am from Pakistan. I am doing MS Economics from Abdul Wali Khan University, Mardan. The research paper I am presenting here is from my MS thesis, which I have completed under the supervision of Dr. Muhammad Tariq and Dr. Muhammad Azam Khan. The title of my paper is The Role of Tourism in the Economic Growth of Asian Countries, a panel data approach. There are lots of advantages of tourism. It brings employment and investment in the country. And the tourism industry provides an important impetus to growth in other sectors such as agriculture, transportation, retailing, and manufacturing, and is therefore seen as a key ingredient for economic development. It is also a major foreign exchange earner for the country. As you can see that tourism, total arrival of tourists is increasing every year. Formerly, tourism has been considered as less productive industry. Some critics can be found in literature on this issue, while most of the literature found it as the most productive sector. There are two types of objective of my paper. To investigate the factor affecting tourism inflow in Pakistan, China, India, Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. These are 6 Asian countries in my paper. And to test the tourism-led growth hypothesis for these selected countries. This is conceptual framework. how economic, political, and environmental indicators affect tourism. And this is the conceptual framework for the economic growth, that how international tourism will affect economic growth through a channel. As per objectives, two types of model has been developed due to the importance of environmental, political, economic factors, carbon dioxide emission, political stability, law and order situation, inflation, and financial sector development has been added to the first model in order to find the determinants of tourism. And for the second model, tourism receipts, control of corruption, foreign direct investment, globalization, labor force participation rate, and financial sector development has been added to the model in order to investigate economic growth. Okay, the data which I have selected was for 17 years, starting from 2002 and to 2018. And the data sources was World Development Indicator, World Governance Indicator, Bank of Thailand, and KOF. The techniques which I have used in this paper are descriptive analysis, correlation analysis, panel unit root, fully modified OLS, dynamic OLS, and Granger causality test. Panel unit root suggests me to use the fully modified OLS and dynamic modified OLS. The result of these techniques showed that our variable found positively related except CO2 emission, which means a country with lower air pollution will attract tourist inflow, while increase in political stability, financial sector development, rule of law, real exchange rate, and inflation will increase tourist arrival. The findings of second model showed that tourism receipts, control of corruption, globalization, and labor force participation rate found positive and significant, which means that with the improvement of these variables, economic growth will be improved. Based off the result, there are some recommendations in this paper. That the government should reduce CO2 emission because people want to visit places with better environment. Moreover, financial sector development should be developed in order to facilitate the tourists and cash travel and deposits.
Excuse
Finally,
me, Professor. Can I
yes.
ask you to share your full screen?
Sorry?
Can you share your full screen presentation?
Okay. I thought I shared it. Sorry for that.
You can press F5.
F5.
Not yet.
Now?
Yes. All right. All right.
It's fine now?
Okay. Yes, it's okay now. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I thought I shared it. I thought I shared it already. Should I start from begin?
No, 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 no.
Okay. Okay, just look at this conceptual framework. These are three indicators: economic, political, and environmental. These are most important for tourism. Can you see?
Yes, yes.
And this is the conceptual framework for economic growth, that how international tourism affect economic growth through a channel. Okay. So I was talking about the recommendations that government should reduce the CO2 emission because people want to visit places with better environment. Moreover, financial sector development should be developed in order to facilitate tourists in cash withdrawal and deposits. Finally, political stability and law and order are necessary for tourism inflow. So it should be developed. Okay, this recommendation was for the first model, and this recommendation is based on the second model results, which says that development in tourism is suggested. Tourism-related infrastructure should be upgraded to facilitate tourists. Universities in these countries should organize international conferences because these type of events will attract more students and researchers to visit and spend in host countries. This activity will attract genuine tourists. Government should present better policy in order to moderate inward FDI, and corruption should be controlled. Similarly, labor force should be encouraged by providing skill and financial assistance. And finally, government should globalize their economy by increasing trade. Thank you so much to the organizer and all participants to giving me opportunity to present my paper in this conference. Thank you. If you have any question.
Thank you, Professor Adin. Can you turn to your just result slide? I think we missed this, if any.
Okay, results
table, just results table.
Okay, results.
If any.
The results are not in the slide, but I will show you.
All right. Okay. So thank you so much for your interesting paper. And I think there is no question.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So just I can say that some recent literature is focusing on the beach disease. I mean, the negative relationship between tourism sector and economic growth. So maybe you can just consider why finalizing your paper. You first, okay. So I think there is some technical problem you have. Okay. Now I think it's my turn. So let me share my screen first. Okay. Professor Adin, can you stop sharing your screen or whatever you are sharing? All right. Okay. So I think, Professor Zamira, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. It's okay now. So if it is not okay, I can use also full screen mode.
Please for screen mode.
All right. Okay. Okay, all right. So my paper is about the relationship between environmental tax and environmental pollution nexus, but more importantly, we suggest a model for environmental Laffer curve just motivated by environmental cousins curve. So our study is motivated by some trends in recent data. So the world has been increasingly confronting serious problems like climate change and melting frozen and carbon dioxide emissions and so on. So production activities of firms and those the growth performances of countries have been blamed for the most part of this global carbon dioxide emission. So more specifically, just we are actually wondering that environmental taxes discourage pollution-intensive production activities or not. So this is our study's outline. Just we will start with introduction, that we will finish question and answer if any. So at the global scale, the key greenhouse gas emission is carbon dioxide. So this gas actually present in the atmosphere naturally, but people change the amount and the cycle of this carbon dioxide emission, and also by influencing the ability of natural things like forest, land, flora, and minerals. So people change the amount of carbon dioxide emission, both by producing and consuming. The main human activities that emit carbon dioxide is, maybe some presenters also mentioned about this, combustion of fossil fuels. So this is a production-based emission. What is consequence of this pollution is that the warmest 10 years actually recorded in the recent decade. So so the 1998 and 2019 was recorded as the hottest decade so far, and it is not peaking, by the way. So in this trend, there are some bad news and good news. Bad news is human activities are still polluting environment. And good news, okay, the amount of carbon dioxide emission is quite high, but recently it's flat. I mean, not increasing that fast. Even global economy has been growing positive. It means that some countries, especially some developed countries, and more specifically, some green companies are doing better than others, and they produce products with less carbon dioxide. So this means green growth and clean GDP, whatever you can call. This observation actually signals that continuing disconnecting of emission and economic activity was the result of growing renewable power generation. So actually, in the EU countries, there are some initiatives that committed to mitigate the environmental pollution. But there are some bad news, again, for the environmental concept. These declines in some developed countries were counterbalanced by increases in other emerging countries. So actually, let's look at the theoretical background. This is our first premise, that you see the left side is original Kuznets curve. So this is about the inverted U-shaped relationship between economic growth and income inequality. And this is the adaptation of environmental Kuznets curve, that similar, this is a inverted U-shaped relationship between carbon dioxide emission and GDP per capita. But our study is proposing a model for environmental Laffer curve. You see the left side, the original Laffer curve, it states that if tax rates are increased above a certain level, then tax revenues will fall as higher taxes discourage producer and consumers from involving in tax activities. So our proposed environmental Laffer curve means that after a certain level, this is a turning point, environmental taxes discourage pollution-intensive production activities and consequently mitigate the environmental pollution. But there are some strong assumptions that there is no informal economy and illegal tax evasion. So this is our empirical framework that you see the original Laffer curve, in the original Laffer curve, tax is taxed income. In environmental adoption, tax is actually considered as environmental tax and regarded as taxed income from environmental related economic activities. So tax rate here, you know, the original Laffer curve, it means that the percentage at which businesses' income is taxed. And in environmental tax rates are adopted as environmental policy stringency, that you cannot be agree with this idea, but I will explain why we should use environmental tax and environmental policy stringency interchangeably. So let me explain our data. First is OECD's environmental policy stringency index that we use for as a proxy for environmental tax rates. So OECD is doing good job by calculating the environmental policy stringency. They consider both taxes, trading schemes, feed-in tariffs, and also non-market policies like standards and research and development subsidies. So they calculate an index considering these indicators, and this is the weight. This is the weight, you know, this is how these indicators are weighed in the index. So actually this index consider 14 environmental policy instruments, not only tax, also tariff and limits on climate and air pollutive activities. So this environmental policy stringency index ranges from 0. 0 means there is no policy, no tax. So this is the tax-free economy. So you can pollute environment as you want. And 6 is the highest score. So it means the country is more stringent, that they put strong, stringent limitation on polluting environment. So in this study proposition, we suggest that environmental policy stringency represents environmental tax from just considering this index. As I said, maybe you don't agree with this. You don't agree with this idea, but actually there is a quite high correlation, above 90%. So we can use environmental tax and environmental policy stringency interchangeably. So you see here, how is country situation here? The OECD countries, look at the blue marked line here, that OECD countries are doing better than other emerging countries in adopting and implementing stringent policies. So you see here, right? And this is the carbon dioxide emission based on production. You see here, this is the brown line is belongs to emerging economies. So what happened in 2000? I think it is because of the China's World Trade Organization membership. So here the carbon dioxide emission based on production in OECD countries is flat, even decreasing over time. But look at the emerging economies; they are they are screwing, and it's quite high. And if you look at here, there is a high correlation between increasing pollution and low environmental policy stringency in emerging market economies. So our sampled countries that we will check the validity of our proposed model for these countries. The G7 countries are, the group of 7: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, and United States, and emerging industrial economies. This is the UNIDOS classification, by the way. I didn't classify these countries. So these countries are classified by as emerging countries by United Nations for their, significant improvement in industrialization. So these countries are Brazil, China, India, Poland, South Africa, and Turkey. So these countries, all these countries, 13 countries are responsible for more than 80% of global carbon dioxide pollution. So this is our variables, that how we consider them. As you know, the environmentally related tax revenue. Actually, these taxes are collected based on air pollution, biodiversity, climate change, and ocean and water pollution. And in all tax bases like energy, transport, pollution, and resources. So we measure it as a percentage of GDP. So this is the policy stringency index, as I mentioned before, and these are production-based carbon dioxide emission. So look at here, that's interesting. In all two cases, you see here, I don't know what happened that this little slide came here, I don't know. Look at this, it is almost U-shaped, inverted U-shaped. This is a polynomial trend, by the way. And you see here like inverted U-shaped Laffer curve, very similar, right? And in G7 countries, also this is you see slightly U-shaped relationship between environmental tax-related revenues and environmental policy stringency. So we can consider that, look at these 13 countries, all sample, you may see here clearer that there is an inverted U-shaped relationship between environmental related tax revenue and environmental taxes. So what it means here, sorry about this, I don't know why it came here. Okay, anyway, I know this environmental policy stringency is negatively related to production-based carbon dioxide emissions. So it means stringent environmental policies can reduce the emission of production-based carbon dioxide. So, and also environment-related tax revenue, look at here, it is a little complicated that in emerging countries, there is a negative relationship between tax revenues and pollution. Even it is positive in G7 countries. It means in G7 countries, collecting taxes from environment is not a good way to reduce carbon dioxide pollution. So this is our conclusion based on this both empirical and geographical evidence. we can say that, I think I just waste your time. We can just say that we confirm the validity of proposed environmental Laffer curve. So future studies can consider this model. And also you are going to find the mathematical, model and detailed data in my full paper. And just future studies maybe can get benefit of this empirical design. And this hypothesis means that why also the hypothesis explain that why high-income developed countries that have as a whole more stringent environmental policies have been growing green, while emerging economies that this they are using lenient environmental policies have been involving more in pollution-intensive production activities. Also, maybe future studies, as I will, get linked the pollution-having hypothesis to this model. So overall, our study shows that formulating and implementing more stringent environmental policies may help in achieving a low-carbon global green economy. So this proposed environmental Laffer curve is a useful model for analyzing the linkage between environmental policy and environmental pollution for future studies, as I said before. The study has some limitation because we just consider a very limited number of countries based on the data availability. So there is not any data set for environmental tax rates. So maybe country-specific studies can get benefit of individual countries if they have some country-level data on environmental tax. So, and finally, our evidence need more country-specific studies. And thank you so much for listening to me. Is there any question for, let me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Professor Mehmet, for your presentation.
Yeah, I know I just waste your time too long. Because I just get benefits because I think the other presenter is not here yet, right? Is there anybody who will present in this session? Okay, we all done that. Is there any question on my paper, by the way? No? So,
There is no question, Professor
okay.
Mehmet.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I think our session is done.
Yes. Thank you very much for.
Maybe there you can have some question from a YouTube channel. Just they can send you email or something. I am checking, but there is no question. But maybe
No question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. That this session is very useful for future studies, and all our studies need to be some improvement in the future. So.